There you go.
Good evening, Audrey. Good evening, everybody. Okay, well, thank you to everyone for joining us this evening at our General Council meeting of February 9th. First and foremost, we'll look to any identification of any media on the line.
Hello.
Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Journal Island News. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you so much. Is there any representatives from the Two Row Times? Okay, seeing none at this time. That leads us in then to our next item, which is, are there any changes or deletions to the agenda? And if not, then I will look to a mover and seconder to adopt our agenda of February 9th.
I'll move. I'll move. It's Melba.
Moved by Melba. Thank you, Melba. Moved by Melba, second by Sherry Lynn. Are there any further questions or comments?
Chief, it's Nathan.
Sure, go ahead, Nathan.
Can we add one Nation Farms? I had some due diligence to do. I've done it, and I just want to bring that back.
Sure, that's no problem. Is that okay with the mover and seconder with the one new additional item? Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm getting thumbs up from Sherry Lynn. Melba, is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Okay, so it's moved and seconded with the one new additional item from Councillor Wright. Are there any further questions or comments? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion's carried. Unfortunately, we would usually have our Mohawk language lesson with Amber Squire, but she is unfortunately unavailable for this evening, so we will not have that this evening. That leads us into our next item, which is our delegations portion of the agenda. Our first item, our first guest rather, is Kathleen Manderville, along with, I believe, some of the educators from schools. So that is going to have a discussion. We will be having a discussion on our schools and the reopening plans, and we'll go from there. That being said, then I will, without further ado, just pass the floor right to yourself, Kathleen. Perhaps you can look to walk us through any of the educators who are on the line, or your presentation as a whole. So Kathleen, you have the floor.
Yeah, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for the invitation to come back and discuss the schools again. And I'm very pleased that our principals and vice principals are on the line tonight. So some of them I'll be able to see, and some I think might be joining by phone. But from I.L. Thomas School, Ms. Reva Bomberry and Chester Gibson, and from Emily C. General, Robin Stotts, and Teresa Davis, and from OMSK School, Alex Randall and Wanda Davis, and from J.C. Hill and Jameson, I don't see them, but I believe they're on. So Candy Browatsky and Deneen Montour. And
Okay, thank you. Just really quickly, Kathleen, if I can interrupt really quick.
sure.
I want to, if there's any questions from any of our counselors or educators, I'm just going to request that we utilize our chat. So if you have a question or comment, if you could just put in the chat that you have those, that way it's easier as we move through the presentation. Sorry about that. Thanks.
That's okay. So if I could ask you to allow Robin Stotts to share her screen so that she can bring up the presentation, please.
Yeah, she should be able to just hit the button on the bottom.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And if it's okay, before we get started, I could do an opening in Mohawk if you want me to, because I feel that we need to bring our minds together. Did you want me to do that, Mark?
That would actually be great. And Robin, thank you so much for that.
Sego sawaguego, nyawa guego scano, werewawe, nyawa guego scano de wanandunyo, Nyawa sungwaya diso agwego no hoda squawi. Dego no holados daskia dohitste gitsi niwa nizale. Dagena wase adalas wehoge ne ungwesua. Okay, and now passing the floor back to Kathleen.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you for your.
Nyawa for that, Robin.
No.
We're here as a team because we work as a team all the time in preparing schools and preparing schools for being open. That has been a consistent duty that we've had from the beginning of this school year that we've all worked together on. So I just want to thank all of the teachers in the schools, our parents and community members that have just been tireless in working through and trying to support their children through this incredibly difficult time. And for our administrative team, each school has a vice principal and principal that work very closely together, and all schools have been working jointly every step of the way throughout the preparations over this time. I'm going to ask Robin to move to the next slide. Thank you. So just go back one, Rob, thanks. So tonight we just want to present to you where we are. And we're very mindful that our job is to prepare the schools and to have them ready to open, but it's not our decision to open them. We act only on the advice of the community. So tonight we will talk about the modes of learning, the results that we've gathered since our last visit here, the cohorts, the actual class sizes that are prepared, the steps of preparation for student return, the preparedness, and what school programming would look like. As well, we're very conscious that this time is incredibly challenging for mental health, and look to our mental health supports that are going on. We'll share all our district documents that have been worked on and prepared for this time, and then finish with some closing remarks. So if I could just ask Robin to move forward. Oh, thank you. So every week we work with public health. Nurses are right on the line with us to continue preparing the schools, so that every change that happens health-wise, every bit of advice that happens becomes incorporated into our plan. We will continue with online learning until classes resume. So at this point, our staff are working from home, and all teaching is online. As I said, health input has been right across the board. We now have COVID custodians on in every school. That's additional custodial staff on top of the regular complement of custodial staff, and their whole day is involved with touch points and all of the COVID protocols. The nurses in public health have been working with us, as well as community health, in order to put in place nurses in the school. That is a work in progress. It has been continuously affected by the community health and the public health nurses. And this has been very much a community and school partnership with public health, public works, all school staff, and our school leaders really working in tandem to put in place the safest protocols that can be put in place in these times. And I think everyone has told me where my slides are, so that's the end of me, but I'm very pleased to have each of the principals and vice principals contribute today, so that you're aware, that we're all aware. This isn't a plan that's put together outside of the schools. This is a plan that's been worked on continuously by our administration in the schools and in the community.
Just really quickly, if I can interrupt really fast, Kathleen, we're just getting a request that if you can speak a little louder in the mic, they're having difficulty hearing. So for any presenter coming up, just if we can note that we'll have to speak a little bit louder for community.
Okay.
Please and thank you.
Certainly. I'm sorry. I'll try to turn this up a little bit. I just didn't want my dog to bark at you. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you so much, Kathleen.
Oh, good evening, and thank you for having us. It's Mr. Randall from OMSK. I believe this slide was my presentation. This is just a survey that was undertaken during the month of January by all of the schools to reach out and connect with all of our families to determine what their choice would be once we had in-person learning, whether they wanted their children to be in person, if they wanted their children to continue with the online learning or the online learning option. So you can see there is a range, but over the, at the different schools between about 30, 32 and 60% of families want their students returning to in-person learning, and with the remote learners between 39 and 63%, depending on the school, want their children to come or continue with the online learning. We did, we continue to reach out to those that we've not been able to reach, and that is an ongoing project as well.
So it's Wanda Davis from Oliver M. Smith School. I'm going to explain the cohorts. So class sizes, they will range from 3 to 13. Most of the classes are around 10 students. Classes will not exceed 15 students. So if that were to happen, we would have to do some additional planning, but right now they will not exceed 15 students. Siblings will remain in the same cohort, which means that those students who are siblings will attend on the same days, and that will ensure that all family members are attending school at the same time. An explanation of cohorts: when students return to in-class learning, they will be categorized into either cohort A or cohort B. Cohort A will attend school Monday and Tuesday and alternating Wednesdays. Cohort B will then attend Thursday and Friday and alternating Wednesdays. On the days that students are not in school, they are learning online via Zoom with their class.
And this is to be Chester. Chester Gibson.
Sorry, I'm muted. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, my internet's kind of having some situations here. Where am I here? Let's look at the trail. And it's not even on.
Slide 6.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we're going back to school. We're both preparing the students and the parents for returning to school. So we've been consulting with our parents quite a bit about the remote learning right now. And when we had chances, we've been at IL. A good example is we've been communicating with our parents about some of the things that we're putting in place in terms of our work that we're doing remotely and at the school level. And I guess that's big with communication, what we're talking about. So we've been Zooming with the parents on a weekly basis, and also our teachers are working hand in hand with our parents to remind them of Edmodo and email and through our Facebook page. Also, we made available to our parents our district reopening plan, which they worked in conjunction with the health services and our individual school reentry plans that we put together, working with all our staffs at the different schools. So there's a lot of things going on in terms of preparing our students and preparing our students and our parents for return to school, and even working with our parents to make sure that some of our stuff is put online, such as the things we did with filming some of the events, such as the how to wear a mask at the school, how the school classrooms would look like, those sort of things. So that, I'll pass it on to the next person. Thank you. Is it still me? Robin?
So, sorry, Chester, I was muted. So as far as preparing staff for student return, these are just an example. You need to know that this is only a list of some of the activities. There were much more at each school. So just an example of some of the things. All teachers participated in SCOTN training, which was facilitated by Health Services. And that was prior to us starting the school year off. So all teachers took part in that training. We've been reviewing the district reopening plan weekly, daily, providing documents. We've had weekly staff meetings with all of our staff. We do have a transition team that meets weekly, and that transition team takes all of the concerns that all of the concerns that staff may have. They meet together, they create a shared Google document. They propose the questions to us as principals, and then it's taken to the district level, which is a committee that I think Mr. Randall responds to and takes part in, and it's just getting all of their answers, concerns, and questions answered. So that's been ongoing over the past few months. Some schools are also doing check-in meetings with staff, either whole school through staff meetings or individual check-ins where they're meeting with teachers online via Zoom, voicing their concerns, asking them, is there anything they need to know about the learning that's happening? Teachers have also been given a preparing the classroom for student return checklist, and that can be found in the district document, and that checklist lets them know, and again, it's informed by public health. Public health has come through with the checklist from the provincial level, which we have developed and instilled into the schools, and teachers were given a checklist so they knew what kinds of things that they needed to do in preparing their classrooms. We've had some school-specific plans that were created, as Chester mentioned. We will be sharing those a little bit later on. We have the School Wellness Committee, which Teresa Davis will be discussing a little bit more in detail. And we also are implementing, prior to students starting and prior to face-to-face, a wellness area at each school where staff can go if they just need a break, they need to remove their mask for a few minutes in isolation by themselves, just to take a break or for whatever is needed. Okay.
Hi, this is Deneen Montour from Jameson J.C. Hill. I'm going to go through some examples of school preparedness that have been put in place. The stuff that has been prepared at the schools for students and staff to return has been done in conjunction with Six Nations Public Works. They received funding for PPE, I know, for the community, and we've been working together closely with Mike Montour and Teresa Doolittle to help in ensuring that we have the items in place that we need to create a safe environment for everyone. Together with public health as well, we've done a number, I think we've had 2 walkthroughs at each of the schools so far. And I know that we have a scheduled 3rd walkthrough in the next week or so. So as we prepared our schools in consultation with both public health and public works, some of the things that you'll see in our schools now is signage. So signage has been posted throughout the buildings. Signage includes areas that are restricted now, areas that might only be allowed 1 person at a time. We have arrows on the floors indicating, walking one way and then returning another way, as well as areas that require extra cleaning, things like that. So the signage is up, exit entrances, as well as instructions on sanitizing when you enter the building. We've removed carpets and any porous furniture throughout the buildings. And we've removed also any excess furniture that will allow for safe distancing in the classrooms, as well as other areas such as libraries and things like that. The library now has become more of a storage area for us at this point, just because we have the excess furniture that we need to keep away from the classrooms at this time. As well, the removal of porous materials such as paper and plastic coverings installed on walls and shelving. Individual students and staff safety barriers are on desks now and work spaces. And there are a few that are yet to come, but most are in place now. We'll have wellness areas for students experiencing COVID-related symptoms. So if their parent has conducted a screening before sending them to school, which is part of the wellness agreement, and the student passes the screening with the parent and the parent sends the student, but say around noon or later in the day, they start to experience a headache or some other COVID symptoms, then we do have wellness areas at each school. Actually, there'll be multiple wellness areas in case we have more than one student, where they'll be just sort of taken away and kept sort of separate from the rest of the students. They will be supervised at all times, and we'll make them as comfortable as we can until a parent or a guardian can come and get them. As well, we have common areas that are closed, like I mentioned, gyms and libraries and staff rooms. We have PPE in the schools. We have extra cleaning materials, hand sanitizer at every doorway that you enter, and masks and shields will be made available for all staff. Masks for students and shields for staff as well. And then, of course, the extra cleaning for the high contact areas. Robin, I don't know if Candy's on. I think she thought it might have started a little later. Is she on?
If you want to
If
just
she
begin
is-
and talk to this
Yep.
one, that would be okay, Deneen.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
So in addition to the physical preparations in the buildings, we also have made sure that our school programming for our students is emphasizing the importance of learning remotely. And so there are a number of things that the schools have put in place to ensure that our students continue to learn. One of the things that we've done is every school has created an iPad borrowing program. And actually that is a district program. So, all the iPads that were in the schools were collected and are being dispersed through each of the schools for those students who need iPads in order to access the online learning programs. Some of our online programs for reading are Lexia Core 5, RAS Kids, Great Leaps, Level Literacy, and we also have a number of math online programs as well, Prodigy, Symphony, and Reflex. So these are all online programs the students are able to access while remote learning, and teachers are ensuring that the students have access to these, and it is part of their program. And that is at all various levels, all various grades throughout grades K to 8. As well, we started in September with an option of paper packages for our students who were having difficulty with internet access, and some parents who had difficulty with getting their students online They might have been staying with somebody who was having difficulty with the technology. If they did have difficulty with the technology, we had people that they could access to help with that and to walk them through those processes to get online. Sometimes though, parents were hoping that, or weren't able to do it, so they opted for paper packages. Now we've transitioned from those paper packages now to online learning. So that has been since the Christmas break. As well, we have purchased memory sticks for families with no internet connection. So what will happen is they may have access to an iPad, but not able to have consistent internet connection. So the memory sticks will be loaded with the work, assignments, information, maybe some videos of the teacher's lesson, YouTube videos, those kinds of things that the teacher's using for the teaching purposes, and the student will be able to access their learning through a memory stick.
Excuse me, just really quickly, Deneen, if I can interrupt, there is a question from Counselor Wendy Johnson. She would just like you to touch back on the iPad borrowing. She had thought iPads were already provided to students.
So there's been a couple of different ways that families and students have been able to access iPads throughout this process. Last spring, Health Services accessed a large number of iPads together with Indigenous Services Canada. And at that time, we contacted each family and asked if they did require an iPad for learning purposes. And that program, ISC and Health Services together, also offered data sticks at that time so that the student would have internet connectivity. So many of our students received iPads last spring through that program. Then in the fall, we began to offer, we realized that not all students accessed those iPads in the spring, and were wanting to do some online learning, but didn't have the technology in the home. Sometimes I think parents might have thought, well, we can get away with using our phones or other devices, but quickly realized that, if you have multiple kids in your home, that can mean having to share and sometimes, Zoom calls or Zoom meetings and Edmodo assignments and things like that are done at the same time. So sometimes it came down to having to borrow an iPad for multiple children in the classroom or in the family, so that everyone had access when they needed it. So I hope that answers that question. So I'll just continue then with special education. We continue to offer that through our self-contained classes. Our teachers that are assigned to those self-contained classes continue to offer programming to our special needs students. And some fantastic things have been done with those students, as well as some integrated program in other subject areas. So if they are part of a rotation, they would do maybe social studies or history with another teacher. As well, we are utilizing Edmodo, Zoom, and MS Teams as platforms for our online learning. Teachers are also, and our TAs, our teacher assistants, are jointly doing check and connect sessions with our students. We try to connect at least, every other day, every 2 to 3 days, at least a couple of times a week, to make sure that students are understanding assignments, that they're getting assistance, extra help if need be. And then lastly, the development of those outdoor learning spaces is very important, so that when the students come back face to face, we can utilize the outdoors.
Scanos Wagwego. I'm Teresa Davis, and I'm the Vice Principal of Emily C. General School. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Okay, I will continue. We wanted to talk a little bit about our mental health supports. This is a topic that continues to come up. Just to outline some of the things we've been doing in conjunction with children's mental health, we do have individual counseling ongoing. So every school has a counselor, a full-time counseling staff that has been working in the school since last year, prior to the pandemic. So they've already established some good relationships with the children. They do have caseloads with our students in our schools that they continue to offer clinical counseling. And that is on, they're connecting with those individual schools or individual students rather, through referrals that come in from families. They can directly contact the counselor, or sometimes a teacher may connect with a family, between the family and the counselor, to get them set up with some counseling sessions when a family member has reached out to the teacher to request that kind of thing. So we do have individual counseling ongoing. Counselors have been doing outreach regularly. Sometimes these are notices in the newsletters. I mentioned the acceptance of referrals. Sometimes they're doing social programs, and this is something they're developing right now as a run-in to build some connections between students and just offer them a time to be together in a social kind of way, making friends, just connecting online virtually at this time while we're still apart. They had been doing some of these things in person prior to our distance learning program starting last March. So now they're starting to reinstitute those, just to do them virtually until we become an in-person kind of program again. A daily mental health strategy is something that has been in development right now. We do, every school, every classroom does a daily opening, beginning with that grounding of our Ganohanyo is so important for our students right now, just to gather our minds together. It's important for our staff as well. And that is something that we've done consistently since the beginning. And that's ongoing as well every day. Counselors and teachers are at this moment developing some more targeted mental health routines that can be done in classrooms. And we're working with children's mental health, of course, with some development of that. So that would be things that can happen in the classroom that offer opportunities for students to build some coping strategies and ongoing interactions that kind of build that good mind practice right now as they're apart from each other, and as we return to the building as well, and getting used to being in the same space with one another again. We do have instructional programming that's supporting mental health, and that's something that we're very excited about as a district, and really looking forward to serving the children in this way that's very new to our programming at schools, and that is the increase in outdoor and land-based learning. So the development of those facilities that has happened this year, and the ongoing implementation of traditional teachings that can happen in those spaces, is going to be a significant gain for our students when they come back to in-person learning. We have been developing multiple kind of outdoor areas that would help facilitate a space outside that's dedicated to this. This includes developing bush areas with proper trails and identification of different plant species and things that are there, and opportunities for students to engage in the land and the land-based learning program that really connects them with the outdoors. And we do think that that's going to be a significant improvement for just mental health for students and staff to be outdoors regularly with each other and engaging in learning in that way.
So I just wanted to share with you a few of the documents that have been shared widely with parents. They're in the presentation here. So one of them is the district reopening plan, and that district reopening plan outlines everything that parents need to know. It's a very, very extensive document, talks about the learning models of cohort A and B, talks about when students would be coming according to which month, so they know ahead of time so they can provide childcare. A number of things are in this document: information for parents, what will it look like, the at-home learning program, a lot of the infographics that parents may need in order to understand, and a lot of those checklists and things that we have talked about ongoing from September. This document, you need to know, I'm just going to go through, is 100+ pages if I'm not mistaken, and it has a number of things like code of digital citizenship within it, synchronous, asynchronous learning, again, infographics for parents. It's got copies of the wellness agreement. All parents would be requested to participate in a wellness agreement prior to their child entering school, and what happens, what is the process if a child has been identified as having COVID within the school, what is the process. But this document has gone out to the community, just so all of you are knowing. It's very, very extensive in nature, and I just wanted to share that with you. That is linked in our presentation that I'm told will be sent to counselors after today from Kathleen Manderville. Another example, because that document is very, very large, they have consolidated a one-page summary that has also gone out to parents, because we all know a document the size of a book, a lot of times parents won't have time to read. So this is a summary that was sent out to all of our parents via email. It was posted on Facebook pages, sent out by Remind, and communicated to parents. Just a summary of that reopening document. Another resource that the community can take full advantage of, and it takes a minute to load, so I'll talk while it's loading, is the Six Nations Education full website. And I think this is our full Six Nations site, but our schools are listed within the site, and we do have the opportunity. So Six Nations Education has a site here, and in the right hand side, an example is you can click on to Emily C. General, and within this site here, there's some offerings for parents. So this page here, if you click on it, was sent out, this document was sent out to our parents. And this is an example. Every school has their own videos, has their own information that was shared with parents, but this is an example of what was shared with Emily C. General. And if you click on the links, all of these videos, and teachers are reviewing these videos right now, and I'm going to bring somebody new in here to watch an example. So these are some YouTube videos that were created so that students know So I just wanted to show you, I won't go into those in details, but a number of videos were created and compiled in a document like this, so parents can watch those videos. Teachers are reviewing these videos with their students so that they're all ready when they come into school. So those are just an example of some of the documents that we've created. Again, if anybody wants to visit that Six Nations Education, you can go on to your school specifically, and there are lots of things that are available there as far as the things that you're doing, access to Facebook page, so you can gather any of the information that you're needing or wanting. So all of that is available, again, has been sent out to parents via email, via Remind, via Facebook, all different ways that that information has been sent out to parents. Okay, and I'm going to come back to the last page in our presentation, which will be Riva.
Now, Scanot Swagoigo. I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to try and express my my words for closing our presentation tonight. I would like to start though by acknowledging our administration. We have an awesome team of administrators. You've been introduced to them tonight. They are an exceptional group of educators who are working for our community and who have the best interest of our students and our families and our teachers in mind. And with all of that being said, safety has always been a priority for us, and mental wellness. Okay, so anything we've done from March 2020 up to present day, we have consistently taken into consideration the safety factors and the mental health of all of our students and staff. And I just want to commend our administrators for taking on that exceptional role, because it is a very, very difficult task that we have undertaken, and we're still standing and we're still forging ahead. So I just want to say nyawa to everyone for that. We have worked extremely hard, and a lot of us worked right through our summer vacation. We meet on a regular basis. We look for any gaps that have been identified with our staff, with our parents, amongst ourselves, in order for us to present to you tonight in a package that we feel will present for our students a very safe environment. Okay, so that didn't go without difficulty. We certainly listen to all the feedback that we get from our parents and our staff. So I wanted to make note of that. Based on all of the work that's been done, the schools are ready. We have a couple of items that need to be taken care of, but for the most part, our schools are ready. Our schools are safe. And I say that because I have been involved in the preparation of all the changes. We have had close to 4 or 5 months as staff practicing safety protocol. And in order for our students to return, we are well versed in what that safety protocol entails. And I just want to make note also that our teachers are an exceptional exceptional educators that have been walking with us in this arduous journey. And I just want to say that we should have a shout out for our teachers. They've been working hard, and they've been working under stress. They have had to learn how to the technology that has been placed on us has been an incredible situation that we've had to foster and nurture and get to know under from working from home and dealing with the stress of COVID. So I just want to shout out to our teachers as well. The mental health of all of our students and staff is very, very important, and we've taken great steps to make sure that the mental wellness of our students are taken into consideration, as well as our staff. And also that the bottom line is safety for us. So I guess the one thing that I want to finish off with is, although our schools are safe, we are not responsible for the lack of safety protocol that is going on in our community. We can only be responsible for what is happening in our schools and the teachers that attend. So with the current levels of positive COVID cases, that is really the bottom line of, if those numbers keep going up, then it makes it impossible for our schools to open in a safe manner. Okay, so I just want to reiterate that although our schools are safe, we're not responsible for the, I want to call it irresponsibility that's going on in our community for the high numbers of COVID cases. And that impacts directly on the opening of our schools and allowing our students to return to a safe environment. So as a result, we're proposing from the working with our parents and in consultation with the health professionals that we have a reassessment of the situation in our community, that we return to the table and discuss reopening on February 19th. All staff will re-enter the building on February the 22nd. And that our students potentially, based on the situation in a community, return to school, re-entry on March the 1st. And of course, that's pending community positive COVID cases. That's our presentation tonight. And I guess if there's time for questions and answers. Yala.
So Mark, if you want me, I can open up the chat so that we can visually see the questions, and maybe principals can chime in to answer those, or Kathleen can chime in. Do you want me to open the chat so we can see the questions? I can continue to do that and leave the presentation open so that we may refer back to that. I'll let you decide, Mark, how we proceed.
Thank you for that, Robin. Yeah, I don't see it as an issue to actually, I've been getting messages from our communications. So I have them up in front of me. I'll just relay them, Robin, and then we'll look to our educators to help assist in answering them.
Okay.
Okay, so the first question that comes in is who sits with the child when they are displaying symptoms? Will there be a nurse, or does a teacher / principal or TA have to do that in terms of the student wellness rooms? So I'll look to who can best answer that, Kathleen or Robin.
The plan for the student wellness rooms was to have nurses assigned to each school, and public health and community, Six Nations community health has been working toward that goal. That's the first suggestion I've ever had of cameras actually monitoring the children. I've not heard of that before, so that's a new suggestion, I guess, something that we certainly hadn't considered.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Kathleen. A couple more questions coming in from community, then I'll again open it up for any questions or comments from council as well. Another question reads, how are they going to get dressed for outdoor multiple times while staying 2 meters apart?
So the children's outdoor clothes don't necessarily go where they usually do. So some will be in the classroom with the children. So others, if they are in a situation where they have open cubbies in the hall, they won't have the number of students in that space at that time, because the cohorts cannot mix. So it won't be all the children going into the hallway and getting dressed the way they normally would. That's part of the cohort model in the plan. So that's how that works. So they spread apart with their things.
Okay, thank you for that, Kathleen. Another question coming in. Will this be available in audio? What's the reading level? It sounds quite high and way too many pages to read for sure. So I think that's referring to Robin's presentation of the 100-page plus. So is there an opportunity or option for parents to perhaps be able to listen to what material in the context of?
So I can answer that question. If your child's in the school and you have an iPad, you can open the document and the iPad will read it out loud for you. Ask your child how to do that. I'm sure they might know how. So that is possible. Anybody who has an iPad in their home, you can open the document and your iPad will read any document out loud for you. And if you as the parent have asked that question, definitely reach out to your teacher and our tech team, support people. They can show you how to do that. An iPad, that's why we're using iPads, because an iPad can read any document. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Robin. Another just quick comment is a shout out to the ACE teachers. It's a comment from community as well. So thank you again to all of our educators as well for all of the great work. I know, again, it's such difficult times to do the job, but your work is definitely appreciative. I want to then now open the floor to any questions or comments from any counselors that may have any. Okay, seeing or hearing none then. Oh, sorry, I see Counselor Audrey Paulus-Bombery.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I just want to commend all the staff, all the teachers, Kathleen, and all the people that are working for our kids, to keep them safe, to keep our staff safe, and to continue the learning that our kids are doing right now. So again, congratulations. Keep up the hard work. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Again, really quickly, I'll come back to any other counselors that may have any questions or comments, but just before then, there's another question that came in. Will there be an online component available should a child be isolated at home for 14 plus days?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, the online teaching will continue. So parents have a choice between face-to-face and online. If the parent chose the face-to-face option, and for one reason or another the child needs to isolate, they would be joining their class by Zoom. So they would continue with the group that they're getting to know, but online continues. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering that question, Kathleen. Another question coming in. Would it be possible to antibody test and only have teachers who have developed the antibodies asked to teach through natural exposure or vaccination?
I think that's a very good question, an interesting health question, for sure. And you know, the antibody testing and some of the testing discussions that are going on, we'll consult with public health on that to provide that kind of answer.
Okay, great. Thank you for that as well, Kathleen. Looking to council for any further questions or comments. Just scrolling along here. Okay, at this point, I'm seeing no questions or comments from council. So therefore, looking to then the next step. So just the last page of your slide, Robin. So the next step is the 22nd. I believe you said teachers would be allowed back into the schools with the potential return date of March 1st. Again, that's pending our community COVID numbers. As we currently are seeing our COVID numbers increase, we must take every necessary precaution, and that's exactly what we're trying to do via this presentation, as well as keeping our community members as informed as possible, and especially our parents. Do again recognize and realize, again, very tough and difficult times, especially for all of us, but especially for our parents and those trying to juggle work and having to figure out childcare, and as well as become a teacher and teach their children as well. So we are looking to be able to best support where we can as the elected council to our parents as well as our students. We do, and I'm glad that the presentation touched a little bit on the mental health aspect. I know I've also been very thankful to be involved to try to assist in areas as well. I know I've joined some schools and classes via Zoom and have had the opportunity to engage with some students online. That was quite fun, and hope that helped a little bit in a sense of their mental health. But again, really just want to commend each of the educators and the principals and teachers and everyone involved in all of this work as we continue to move forward in the best and safest possible way. I do have one question coming in from Councillor Hazel Johnson. What does the COVID numbers have to be in order for the schools to return? So I'm not sure if there's, Kathleen, if you've had a discussion around those pieces of where you feel would be safe numbers to return when we approach the March 1st date.
So that is questions, those are the type of questions that we ask public health because, you know, is there an ideal number? Or, you know, obviously the lower the better, but you know, what is the number? And that's not information that I've been told. The projection of March 1st as a potential good start date was in, you know, in consultation with public health. So, you know, and that discussion and those dates were confirmed with us on Friday, just the Friday past. Now, so that's the best answer that I can give, Hazel, at this moment. So there was no definite, it's about the protocols that are in place in the school that was in terms of how public health saw the safety of the program that we have in place.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen, for answering that question. I'll head over now to Councillor Carey.
Yeah, Kathleen, is there any thought of once you come back on March the 1st, would you be working right through spring break, or are you still going to be taking the spring break, or have you thought of that?
The March break is a contract. It is not something we have movement on. It is part of the contract. So I know I've heard discussion about March break in the province, and I'm very interested to see what they're coming up with, because we don't have any movement on that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Carrie and Kathleen. Okay, are there any further questions or comments? So just really quickly again, Kathleen, so pending again the March 1st date and that community numbers are decreasing, will we then look to another assessment date whereby we would have this discussion again in front of council and community? Just looking to that piece of the assessment date of, I guess, making sure that, you know, we're moving ahead with the March 1st date, again, pending the COVID numbers. So with that, because we do have a general council on the 20th, the reason I asked that is, I guess, our schedule does have our next general council meeting on February 23rd. So I'm just wondering if that would be an ideal time to then assess the situation then and make further recommendation at that time, or how do you see the next steps working?
So yeah, we looked at that February 19th date as being a reassessment. Now that can be a reassessment with us and health, and then come forward to the February 23rd. That was the date you said, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, and come forward to the February 23rd meeting for council's input at that time. Would that be appropriate?
I think, yep, sorry, go ahead, Kathleen.
We know that our parents and our staff, I mean, once they're going to need some time, we want the, you know, I know it maybe sounds, you know, that we've had all kinds of time. Yes, we have, but at the same time, if it's an actual go, you know, date, we have some very timely things that need to happen in sequence to make sure that all that last minute preparation is done. So we'd want to have, you know, a definite week of staff in the school, and I guess the 23rd would work. If the COVID.
So I can change this date on here, Mark, if you want me to. So what you're saying is you're thinking this reassessment date is the 23rd?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to suggest, just again, so that, because I know that's basically been the process that we've been following thus far. So I'm just wondering if that is okay and works with Kathleen and the rest of the educators.
That's fair. And then from that meeting, if families, if the situation is different and families feel that they you know, are wanting to send their children to in person, the sooner that they can touch base with their school, the better. If they've you know, changed their mind and they had them online and they do want to send them after all, to make contact with the school as soon as possible after February 23rd, because that all of these preparations mean, you know, setting up things for the safety of the children.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. Kathleen, I do have just a few more questions that are coming in if you're recognizing the chat. The first question from community: what happens if a child in, say, grade 2 has COVID symptoms and there's multiple other students related to that person in different grades?
So I'm going to ask if they're from the same household. Like, is that what they're asking? Like siblings of, or the same member of the household?
That's what I'm assuming from the question.
Then that would be a decision in terms of public health as to whether that those other children were to go home at that time as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Kathleen. Another question reads: are students that are not up to date with vaccinations still able to attend? I know our Director of Health commented as well, Lori Davis-Hill, that any students who are behind in their vaccinations can be vaccinated by public health with an appointment, and that we ask that you please call them at 445-2672 to schedule this. So just wanted to, if there's any other input on that question. Okay, thank you for that. Just wanted to touch base again on one last question. And again, we will be coming back on the 23rd for further questions. I do recognize and realize there's one question of that public health should be here to answer some of these questions. That's something that we could definitely look to our next meeting to invite public health in to help assist in responding to some of these questions. So we will look to that piece on the 23rd as well. The last question that I'm going to go to is, if the March 1st opening is pushed back, what kind of timeline is the next date going to look like? Are parents, staff, and students going to be expected to change everything in a couple days or weeks or a month?
So I'm just going to look at the dates, and I'm kind of answering that question that you have there, Mark, of if we're not going to make the decision as a group, meaning council and teachers, principals together, of the date of the 23rd. So here's what that would look like. If we're asking for staff to go back into the building on the 22nd, they're moving everything back into the school, and then a decision could possibly be made on the 23rd where they're going back to their homes. I feel like there needs to be some succession here of a reassessment, then teachers return to the building, not prior to, and then that reopening date is something we'll have to, because all you're doing is, if the decision's not made until the 23rd, you're giving teachers 3 days in class to be ready for students' return Monday. That's not enough time. That's what Kathleen was referring to. That's why we were wondering whether you could possibly have a meeting prior to around the 19th, because then teachers can be back into the class or back into the school on the 22nd, which gives them a week to prepare for students' return. That's why she suggested the 19th.
Okay, my apologies for that. And I think we can definitely look to accommodate that date and host a special council meeting to that effect, just to your comments, Robin. I do see Counselor Wendy Johnson, who also has her hand up.
Thanks, Mark. So I just want clarity. So this is really a communication piece for the community, for parents, for guardians. I mean, what's been presented are the plans of, you know, the federal school system here. So it's an update for us in terms of what they've decided, what they've worked on, what plans they've come up with, working with public health, working with everyone. So in terms of the dates and sending staff back into the schools, that's really a decision for Kathleen and others, because we don't have a mandate over the federal teachers. So, and it comes, this entire piece is a decision for parents and guardians if they choose to send their kids back to school and what method they decide. So I'm not clear, are we expected to make a decision to send federal employees back into the schools, or is this an information piece that's being shared widely with community through these general meetings? Because that's how I interpret it.
The decision of when the staff would enter the school.
That question was for the chief.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Wendy. So from what I understand is this is a community decision for the schools to go back. So our students, again, that date, I wouldn't necessarily look to, I will revert this question to Kathleen in regards to the staff entry, because I don't feel that's necessarily our decision. However, with the group of the emergency control group, as well as the elected council, I think the decision is basically for when students will go back to school. And I think that's basically what our role is.
I completely agree with that. So the decision to send the staff back in is not you know, a community decision. However, the decision to send children to school very much is. So and the date of that entry does affect how, you know, best timeframes for staff. So I think that's what Robin was really explaining, and we would want our staff in the school for at least, you know, a week time to before the students were in.
Thank you for that, Wendy and Kathleen. So I'm looking at the calendar and back to your assessment date of the 19th, and my apologies, Kathleen, for the confusion on the dates there. But it will work for us to host another meeting on that date of the 19th. I see it is a Friday. My only concern would be then, that's given that it's only, you know, that's next Friday, will hopefully, again, if we still don't see as much of a decrease in COVID numbers, at that time is when we would then look to the next date. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So just for council, we will look to entertain the date of February 19th to reconvene this conversation and look to the assessment date at that time. I do see Councillor Audrey Paulus-Bombery, who also has her hand up.
Yeah, Mark, what we did last time is we took the recommendation from the emergency control group, who worked closely with Kathleen and all the administrators, and they came up with the date that they thought was safely, the kids could go back to school. And then they brought it to council, and council reaffirmed it. And that's what we did. It was basically, the decision was made at ECG with education, brought to council for reaffirmation. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey, for that. And we could still very much do that process as well, given that the ECG does meet on Wednesday. So that would be prior to, so we could still look to further recommendation from the emergency control group. So we could very still much follow that process as well, Audrey. Okay, council, is there any further questions or comments in relation to this topic? If not, then we will then see everybody back on the 19th for further, again, reassessment and further decision made at that time. So as it stands right now, the schools will return, student return for the goal date is March 1st. Again, it's pending our community COVID numbers, and we'll reassess the situation on February 19th, and we'll still look for further recommendation in collaboration with our emergency control group. I do see Councillor Wendy, who also had her hand up.
Yeah, I just put something in the chat. So if there are any documents or presentations, can we please have them in advance? I think we asked that at the last meeting as well, so we can read through them, be prepared, and get straight to the decision if there's a decision to be had. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Wendy. Okay, Council and Kathleen, again, just want to say, keep up the great work. I know it's definitely challenging times. To all of our educators, teachers, our students, our families, we will get through this together. And I do know that hopefully we will start to see the light at the end of this tunnel. I do know we also need to try to, as much as we can, focus in on our children and students and to be there and best support wherever we can. So again, appreciate all of your work, and we'll definitely look to the 19th for further recommendation and decision. So Nyawa for joining us this evening.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, Ona.
Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, Council and community. We are now going to move on to our next portion of our agenda, which is the Cannabis Commission and the introduction of new commission members. The chair of the commission, I believe, is on the line, Nanta Garlo, as well as members of her team. So that being said, without further ado, I will pass the floor right to yourself, Nanta, to introduce your team as well as the new commission members. Oh, sorry, Nanta, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thanks for having
No problem.
I want to take this opportunity to bring forward our new commission members because a lot of you haven't had a chance to meet everyone. I know the community is eager to know who the new commissioners are. So I would like to introduce the new commissioners for the Six Nations Cannabis Commission, Richard Johnson, Drew Hill, and Talia Bomberry. I've asked the commissioners to just kind of give an introduction of themselves, explaining why they've joined the commission and what their hopes are for cannabis in our community. And so I'm going to turn it over first to Richard Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. I don't know if I have my video on yet here, but there we go. So I'm Richard Johnson. Just a little bit about me. I was born and raised here on Six Nations. A little bit about my background. I served 4 years in the Marine Corps, 10 years on Six Nations Police Department, and the last 20 years in Indian gaming, mostly in California. Down there, I served 5 years Director of Security Surveillance, 10 years as a gaming commissioner, last 5 years as the executive director for the tribe. My goal really for the commission is to ensure that the product that's sold here and distributed here within our community is safe. That's the #1 goal for me. And also try to ensure that the community in the whole benefits from the cannabis. That's my major 2 goals. That's what I'd like to see in mine while I sit here as a commissioner. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. I'm going to pass it over to Drew. Drew, you're on mute, I think.
We can see you. Can't hear you.
I think he's experiencing some technical difficulties. Yeah. I'm not sure. maybe we can switch over to Talia while Drew tries to figure out.
I'm fine with that. Oh.
You're on.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name's Talia Bomberry. I too was born and raised here. I continue to live here. I've been a case manager with Six Nations Ontario Works now since May 2008. I have a background in political science and addiction studies. I would say that throughout the past 10 years, I've really noticed and seen a growing number of issues surrounding drugs and violence in our community. And I joined the commission because I felt that there was a need to have a regulatory body in the cannabis industry to kind of aid in mitigating the illicit activity surrounding cannabis and overall the health and safety of the community here. My hope for Six Nations is for us to be able to have a sustainable industry in cannabis while having a high standard in health and safety, again, for the overall safety of the community.
Thanks, Talia.
Yep.
Drew, were you able to get your audio back up? I saw it connect. Drew, can you hear me? All right, so just unfortunately, Drew's not able to give his introduction, but he is definitely an important part of the team. I think that this group of people coming together has been critical for the commission in our work going forward. With us today, we also have Kim Thomas. She's our legal advisor for the commission and the licensing regime build. The team has done so much good work in the last few months preparing to bring forward the revisions to the Six Nations cannabis law. We've opened up our production licensing, working towards opening up our dispensary licensing. We're looking forward to scheduling some time at the end of this month to go over the revisions to the law and other items with the council. And so I just want to turn it back to Drew one more time to see if his audio is working so he can introduce himself. Drew, is your audio working? No. Okay. So that we'll bring him back again and do proper introductions face to face next time.
That's perfect. Well, thank you so much, Nanta, for joining us this evening. I just want to open it up for any questions or comments from council, perhaps for Nanta or any of the new members on the commission. Okay, seeing or hearing none. Oh, sorry, I see Councillor Audrey.
Oh, welcome, everybody. I just wanted to welcome the new members to the commission and to see us at council here. We'll be working closely with you from here on in, and we wish you well. Thank you very much.
Now for that, Audrey. I do recognize, oh, sorry, I see Kim has her hand up as well.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to also just extend my congratulations to the new commissioners. They bring a wealth of experience, and it's really amazing that they were all raised at Six Nations and have thorough knowledge of the community. They all have skill sets in a variety of different fields and have the community's best interests at heart and are very much focused on the community priorities of health and safety and ensuring that the community benefits from the cannabis industry at home. So I think we're very fortunate to have such good additions to the commission, and I've been very impressed with how well they work together And I look forward to the next steps as we continue to move forward to launch the industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, for your comments, Kim. I just also just want to acknowledge Drew did put in the chat his apologies for his audio as he was having some issues. So I'm sure we will get to Drew sooner or later here, rather more sooner. But again, just want to extend my congratulations to each of you, as well as welcoming you aboard upon the commission. I know again there's much work to do, and we'll definitely look to support as best as we can as we move forward in a positive direction. Do recognize as well, as we know, cannabis in itself, the topic around cannabis is at times can be very controversial. But we know that we need to stay focused on the bigger picture, which is, again, I've heard multiple commissioners speak to it, which is the health and safety. And that's exactly what we've strived for. I know we've had our issues in the past, and so we will definitely look to do our best to rectify those moving forward. As well as I do know, and I've talked with Nanta. We are going to be looking to schedule those 2 days for council and the commission to be able to meet and discuss and have dialogue and further decision made on other areas. And we will look to, again, how we can make that achievable via Zoom as well. I think it's important that we, our communication from as we move forward from this point on, we need to bring community along with us as well with everything that we do. And so that's a goal for ours. So we'll definitely work on those pieces and how we can be best engaged with community and that their concerns and rather even ideas at times are being heard. So I do want to also just recognize there's a question in the chat from community. How many are on the commission, or they reference the board, but how many are on your commission in terms of the Six Nations Cannabis Commission? So I'll pass that question to Nanta.
The Six Nations Cannabis Control the Six Nations Cannabis Control Law has room for 5 commissioners. Right now we have 4 and 1 vacancy.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that question, Nanta. Again, we do want to engage community with further on multiple other areas within the industry and cannabis and the topic of itself. So there will be more Zoom and communication and engagement with community as we move forward. And again, just want to welcome each of you and thank you for committing your time. I know, again, it's not at times can be not the easiest job, but know that you do have support within community and as well as the elected council to try and see and again, make sure that, to Kim's comments of, making sure that health and safety is the utmost priority while still making sure we seeking community benefit from the industry as well. So that being said, just want to say nyawa to each of you for joining us this evening and look forward to working along your side so that we can see this industry continue to grow within our territory in the most safest way possible. So thank you.
Nyawa.
Thank you very much,
everyone.
Nyawa.
Thank you, Nyawa.
Take care and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Council, that now shifts us in to our next agenda item on our agenda, which is the adoption of our council minutes of January 26th. So if you can move to your Dropbox and the item within looking to the minutes. I see Councillor Michelle.
I'll move them.
Moved by Councillor Michelle, seconded by Councillor Nathan. Are there any further questions or comments to the minutes? I just want to, just a quick comment for my absence I was still on bereavement leave at that time. So just want to make that noted within the minutes. Are there any further questions or comments? Okay, if not, then it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion's carried. We'll now look to the recommendations from our Human Services Committee, recommendation 6A. Melba, Melba, that's your recommendation. Wendy, acknowledging your hand, I'll just look to the mover and seconder to read, and then I'll go back to Councillor Wendy. So Melba, recommendation 6A. Oh, my apologies, Melba's on mute. Shirley, can you assist in taking her off mute?
Okay, sorry about that. Moved by myself, Melba Thomas, that the Six Nations Human Services Committee recommends to the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council to approve the chair of the Six Nations Family Health Team Board Human Services Committee to sign the Six Nations Family Health Team's 2021 Annual Operating Plan in order for this report to be submitted to the Ministry of Health. I so move.
I second Hazel Johnson.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Melba and Hazel. I will now look to questions or comments. I'll shift over to Wendy.
Thanks. I don't have an issue with the motion, but I thought we passed actually 2 motions back in, I want to say December, maybe. I don't remember when, but giving the authority for them to do that because we had to set a global approval, right? So I was just wondering, do we even need this motion? Don't they already have that?
I'm going to look to our Director of Health or Zach, who can maybe assist in answering that.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay. Yeah, so what we decided since that last meeting is Sherry Lynn Hill Pierce is now the chair of the board. So that switched that over to provide that signing authority to get this annual operating report into the Ministry of Health. Because we're a bit late already on getting that report in, we need to get it in soon. So that was the piece on that. And we also had our previous board chair resign since that time. So Sherry Lynn has stepped into that role. So we're still looking at some of the discussions around the MOU itself and hoping to get some of those details better organized. But at this point, we need to get the report in, and that's what the Ministry of Health is requiring, is that our board chair with signing authority is able to do that.
Okay, thank you, Zach. Sorry, Wendy, do you have a follow-up to that, to Zach's response?
Yeah, so 2 things. So I didn't think the motions that we made previously talked about, I didn't think they named the chair. It was just giving the chair approval to sign off on audits, sign off on financials, sign off on all of that stuff according to our policies. So that's why I'm questioning if we already made those motions for that, do we need to have another motion, like keep coming back? I hear what you're saying in terms of a new chair. If you wanted to make a motion on that new chair, that's something else, but that's all. It just seems like we're repeating when there's already a motion to do this.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. Looking to Zach or Lori on this piece. It's been still moved and seconded.
Right, and I guess the last time there was questions around some of the risk associated with having that legal binding authority granted to the Family Health Team board chair when the Family Health Team hasn't been incorporated yet. So I know we were going to bring some of those revisions back to January, but it was recommended at that time, that we bring that we look at the MOU a bit more closely in terms of the incorporation aspect, simply due to the FHT not having that legal identity at this point. So sort of the quicker solution at this point was to have Sherry Lynn as the chair, because that wasn't clearly noted last time with the signing authority for the past board chair.
I just want to add that I believe that those were actually deferred for more information. During those meetings, we discussed them, but the resolutions were not passed. They were deferred.
Okay, thank you.
So
Thank you, Lori and Zach. Sorry, I'm just going to go back to Wendy.
So sorry. So just for clarity, then in the motion, so should we be approving Sherry Lynn as the chair, and a second part to that, then to sign it? I'm just asking you in terms of process, right? What you need.
Sorry, is that a question for Chief?
I'm trying to.
You or Lori.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think if it helps for future, like even looking back on the resolution itself, I would agree we could add Sherry Lynn's name into that just to make it really clear.
Okay, thank you, Zach and Wendy. Are there any further questions or comments to the motion? Okay, seeing or hearing none, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed?
Favor.
Seeing or hearing none, motion's carried. Do you need second reading waived on that piece? Looking to Zach and Lori.
Yes, please.
Okay, that
I'll
being
move to
said,
waive this, Melba.
thank you for that, Melba. It's moved by Councillor
waive.
Melba, second by Councillor Hazel to waive second reading on the previous motion. All in favor? Any opposed?
Favor.
Seeing or hearing none, motion's carried. Okay, thank you for that. We'll now look to recommendations from our Environment Committee. Recommendation 7A.
Okay, moved by myself that the Environment Committee recommends to the Grand River Council to provide a letter of support for Rod Whitlow's Indigenous Center for Cumulative Effects proposal. Once there's a clarified on who the project lead host is. Do we know who the host is?
I don't have that information, but I do. I will look to further follow up with Rod, as now that if once this motion passes, then we can get his letter of support, so I can get further information at that time, if that's okay, Michelle.
Okay.
Is that okay with our seconder?
Yeah, second.
Second by Councillor Sherry Lynn. Are there any further questions or comments to the motion? Okay, seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed?
Favor.
Seeing or hearing none, motion's carried. Motion to waive second reading?
I'll move.
Moved by Michelle, second by Sherry Lynn to waive second reading on the previous motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion's carried. Well, now, oh, sorry, I see a question from Wendy.
Is there any time sensitivity to that letter?
Yeah, it is. There was so we did reach out to Rod, so he knew the process and was waiting for this. So tomorrow we will get that letter to him, now that it's just been passed. Okay, I'll now shift into recommendation 7B.
I move that the Environment Committee recommend to the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council to accept Rod Whitlow's Advisory Committee on the Environment Report as information.
I second.
Okay, thank you, Michelle and Sherry Lynn. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any further questions or comments to the motion?
Chief, it's Nathan.
I see Councillor Nathan.
Just on the report actually didn't make it into the Dropbox, so maybe we just defer this until council can see the report. So he did a ACE committee report, and I was looking through the box and I didn't see it in there.
Fair enough, we'll defer.
I have no problem. Is that okay with this, the mover and seconder? It's good with the mover, seconder? Okay, so we could defer that item just until the report is within our Dropbox. So we'll look to the next general counsel for this item to bring back. Thank you for that, Nathan. Okay, that being said then, we'll look to scheduling. We do have to schedule, again, there's two dates. One is the Lifelong Learning Task Force, and the other one is what we talked earlier with the cannabis introduction. So they're recommending 2 days with full council. Again, we'll look to Zoom on those pieces as well. So if we can, I will look to throw some dates out. I know our schedules are getting quite filled up quickly. So if we can just look to our agenda review team to bring forward potential dates that hopefully work for all of us. I know it's difficult to get all of us at one time, but these are two very important topics, and I do realize again it's difficult to prioritize when everything's a priority one. But I do see also I think the 23rd and the 25th, February 23rd and 25th was recommended for the Cannabis Commission. Can we go ahead? I know we talked about this piece already, so just want to look to see if there's any conflicts for those dates. Okay, I seeing or hearing none at this time. We will look to add that into our schedule for those dates, and again, we'll work with the commission and our comms team to look to next steps on those pieces. So if we can include those in your schedules for this month. The other piece is the Lifelong Learning Task Force. I just want to shift over to Councillor Audrey for more context on this piece.
I think she's just doing an update.
Okay, so do we want to just maybe add those? Because I believe it's the political liaison that she does her updates to. Is that okay just to include that piece within our political liaison agenda?
Sure.
Okay, so that settles those 2 dates. Thank you for that, Audrey. Okay, and then
Mark?
Oh, sorry, I hear Councillor Carey.
Yeah, the 2 dates for the cannabis. Which one did you say again? The 23rd?
February 23rd and the 25th.
And that's at 9?
Yes.
9 o'clock? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, Council, we'll look to then, so we wanted to start to add again, I know just a little context on the next piece of our agenda, which is the political updates piece. There is going to be more information that's come under this sector. This gives us the opportunity again to have more discussion and dialogue on some of the legislation and as well political issues surrounding, within our community as well. So I just wanted to add again, once we get into the groove of things of adding this standing item on our agenda for every agenda as we move forward here. So just a little update on that piece. So more information will be forthcoming at our next general council meeting, specifically under this agenda item. That being said, I do want to now shift over to our one new business item, which was added by Councillor Nathan. So I'll now have pass the floor over to you, Nathan.
Thanks, Chief. So just in terms of some of the due diligence that Council asked from the last meeting as it relates to One Nation Farms, I did send an email out earlier this afternoon, but just to kind of go over things as it relates to, by context way, Ben McDonald came last council meeting and was looking for that support for vertical farm technology in Six Nations for his business. There were some questions in terms of due diligence, so I did my best to liaison between council and himself. And some of the points, and I think there's 3 points I'll just quickly go over. The first one is currently we don't have any council departments applying for that type of technology or use of that type of technology, so there's no duplication or competitive pieces there. He did clarify that once the technology is up and running, He's happy to participate in any community-wide food sustainability strategy that might be contemplated at that time. Unfortunately, he was not comfortable with sharing the business plan at this time, just in terms of the some of the trade secrets that likely would have been within that plan. And as it relates to clarification on what he's applying for, it's a variety of government grants, as well as funding programs, as well as non-for-profit agencies, as he is a privately owned business. So there is a motion also that we worked on that I committed to bringing back, but maybe I'll just stop there and see if there's any questions. I don't even know if I can answer them, but.
Okay, thank you for that, Nathan. Looking to any questions or comments for Nathan? I see Councillor Audrey.
Yeah, Nate, did you check out to see if a motion was required from the funding agencies?
Yeah, yes. And we did work on a motion, and that is provided in your Dropbox as well. So Chief,
Okay,
with
thank
that,
you.
I can go into the motion if you like.
Sure. Oh, sorry, just before that, Nathan, I see Councillor Wendy has her hand up.
Yeah, thanks for doing that extra work, Nathan. So I have questions and I just don't know where, how to interpret it, I guess. At the last meeting, I know there were councillors that talked about previously council has always written letters of endorsement or written letters of support if somebody was starting a business. But in doing that, are they letters of support that actually endorse somebody going and getting grants, whether it be federal or provincial governments or wherever, to get that funding? Or is it simply to support somebody's entrepreneurship? Because I'm trying to figure out what our role is in supporting, because I interpret this as we're endorsing this particular business to submit for grants to get this funding. So do we go that far regularly, or I'm just not sure where it sits? Is this different than normal, or because it almost seems to me like it's a motion, right? It's a band council resolution supporting this particular business for the funder.
Mark and Hazel.
Oh, sorry, just before I go to Hazel, looking to Nathan for potential response to Wendy's comments.
Yeah, I kind of had the same question as it relates to what was done in the past. And maybe I look to past counselors in terms of that process, right? Because the way, and this goes back to what's the process too, because we just did a similar motion for Rod, but it wasn't for a private business, it was for more of a community initiative too, right? So I'm a little confused on that, and in terms of our process, and I would just recommend that we solidify that in terms of having some clarity around that. You know, we have the business registry, and that's one process, but that's just a recognition of a business. But when it comes to, you know, council seeking support, especially for technology like this, like, you know, like innovative, like vertical farming is actually pretty, really new technology in terms of looking at the way new of producing foods and not only foods, but other produces. So back to Wendy's point, I think we need to actually start looking at a process for, and even my question is, does it even need to come to council? Is that something that just goes to, you know, the chief's office, and you know, how much, where does this go in terms of the process? So I'm with Wendy. I'm kind of confused on the process.
Yeah, and just before again I go over to Councillor Hazel, I just know from my past experience that, you know, with a BC, usually that's that's part of what the individual needs is the BCR in order for their application to be complete. So again, I don't necessarily think that there's a process per se. The process would be that it would come to council. Council would do their due diligence and to see if they would support in a BCR or not. So again, if back to your point on process, if we're looking to develop what that process looks like, that usually was, and again, correct me if I'm wrong from any past counselors, but that was my my experience while I was a counselor, is that when individuals would come to council with a project or in need of a type of letter of support, majority of the times it was a BCR, but you know, I think that there was not necessarily any process other than we would do our due diligence on the specific project that come through. So that's just again, if we're looking to develop a process, I think we need to have further conversation on that piece. But I do know that when projects would come forward, we would just do our due diligence on the project itself or what it was we were looking to support, and then make recommendation at that time. So that's just from my experience. I do want to shift over now though to Councillor Hazel.
Yeah, I feel confused about this as well, because how many times has Ben been at council and was really in a hurry to get his cannabis business underway? Now vertical farming is just brand new. In my mind, if you're going to start your own private business and you're going to seek funding from any source to develop your business, I can't quite understand why you would need a band council resolution to do that. Unless those funding sources specifically say, like, we don't know where all he's, well, I do recall he was going to go to the, can't remember the name of that place where the farmers had a bad time with that funding source. Still can't understand why he needs a BCR to establish his own private business. And even now he don't want to share his business with the food sustainability people who are interested in the same farming for food. Like, I would think it would be open, and yes, we'll share if you want to work. I kind of think, is he still in cannabis mode? That's I'm just wondering that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hazel. I want to shift back over to Nathan.
So yeah, and the funding sources do require the BCR as part of the application when they do go forwards, and it doesn't, preclude us from, or it doesn't. Yeah, it's just, they do require the BCR, and that's pretty standard as it relates to government funders as well as non-for-profits. And he did reiterate that this is not, and he said it in public to us, this is not in relation to his cannabis business. So there is that particular piece as well. But, in terms of fairness and based on practices, until we put, a new process in place, I think it's only fair that we move forward with this particular one, and I'm prepared to put the motion forward.
Okay, thank you, Nathan, for that. So there is a motion on the floor that's moved by Nathan, and it's in your Dropbox. So that's on 1 and 2, correct, Nathan, mover?
Yeah, I just put it as whereas, so it's one motion. I just put two whereas, and then the therefores in there.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. Just for community-wise, did you want to read that out?
Sure. So whereas One Nation Farms will work to contribute to filling the gap in food security and accessibility with our community, whereas 2, vertical farming is a new and emerging technology that uses indoor farming techniques, i.e. artificial control for temperature, light, humidity, and to make producing foods and other products possible indoors. Therefore, be it resolved that Six Nations elected council support One Nation Farms efforts to enhance food enhance local food security, accessibility, and support for their efforts to secure funding for their project.
Okay, it's moved by Nathan. Is there a seconder to the motion?
I'll second it, Sherlyn.
Okay, second by Sherry Lynn. Now we'll look to further questions or comments to the motion.
It's Melba.
I have a question too.
Okay, I have 4 individuals that spoke at the same time. So I'm gonna go with Melba first. And then I'll go to Hazel. Just really quickly, I'm just gonna read out the list first. So Melba will have the floor, and then Hazel, and then Carrie, and then I'll go over to Wendy. So Melba, you have the floor.
Sure. So many times I've heard counselors say, I don't have enough information. Well, I don't either. I don't even know what this is all about. I'd like to see a presentation on this technology, this vertical farming. And twice, Nathan, I have heard you say, and other foods, other products and other foods. I'd like to know the limits on this. Is there limits? And why is there limits? I'd like to have a presentation on vertical farming. So we as counselors would know all the details as much as possible, and the community would know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Melba. I'm gonna now go down the list. Hazel.
I'm not comfortable with this either, for the very fact that I think the business plan should be provided. And like Melba said, we don't have a whole lot of information on vertical farming, because his last visit to council, when I had asked with his interest, would he consider being part of that food sustainability with the farmers, and I felt like I offended him by his reaction. And he said, this is my only business. Well, I don't know. There's just something that doesn't sit well with me about it. So I can't support it. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Hazel. I'm going to continue down the list. Carrie.
Yeah, that's kind of my concern too, because right in that second whereas, producing foods and other products. So I have I'm kind of hesitant on that part. So I can't support it either. We need more information.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Wendy.
Thanks. So one of the questions I had last time was around liability, and what is our liability as a council if we're passing a motion at BCR and we're endorsing this business or any other business? What does that mean for us? And I haven't received an answer to that. You know, I'm sure there's past practices, but I think we need to take a look at that and see what that is. I certainly support any entrepreneurship. If people want to go into business, I actually encourage it. But if we play a role in it, if we're being requested to be a part of that, then what does that mean overall? And I think the best we could do if we were to pass a motion is to acknowledge that this individual is seeking funding. That's all we can do, because we don't know anything. Because I want to acknowledge in the chat the comment from Shirley about how it was dealt with before. So, I mean, that's the best I'd be willing to do, is acknowledging that they're seeking funding.
Okay, thank you, Wendy, for your comments. Are there any further questions or comments from any other councilors? Okay, seeing or, oh, sorry, I see Councillor Audrey. Oh, sorry, Audrey, you're on mute.
I did all that with that. I only get another 25 cents. With all the comments that you can see from all the councilors, I think it should be deferred until more due diligence is done. You know, And I support entrepreneurship, but I do support the other counselors and what they're saying too.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. Looking back then now to the mover and seconder, how you would like to proceed. Do you want to, as you can tell, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 potential counselors who are not going to be in support of the motion as written. So just looking to the mover on how you would like to proceed.
You know, in terms of the due diligence, if there's further due diligence required, I just ask that administration kind of take over that piece. In terms of my role, I did as much as I could as my commitment to council and Mr. McDonald last time, but the due diligence that they're asking for is a little bit above and beyond. So I'm gonna support the motion once it comes forward and once those questions are responded to, but if that can be done, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you for that, Nathan. I do just want to shift over, if I can, to our SAO, Darren. Is Darren on the line?
Hey, Chief. I'm here. Yeah.
Hi, Darren.
Yeah. Good discussion. I mean, we do acknowledge all the businesses that submit for registration with us. I sign all the certificates on almost a daily basis. So there is an acknowledgement that's already available to him. So that level is already there. I do agree that, you know, being from the business world, I can see why he doesn't want to share his business plans. But one thought would be, you know, to create not necessarily a motion, just an acknowledgement motion, as Councillor Wendy Johnson has indicated. Just to be clear, is non-binding, that we are wholly endorsing his business, but in terms of vertical farming, that there's no exclusivity. I would just offer that in terms of a follow-up with Ben, but certainly that can be done. If that's, but I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a pathway for consistency, Chief.
Definitely, and I definitely appreciate that piece, Darren. So I'm just wondering, in a sense, just to I guess, find the balance here, Nathan, can we potentially bring this back at the next general council meeting, just so that we can look to those two pieces that Darren had alluded to, and again, further look to a process? And again, just so it's, we'll look to the administration to follow up on those items, if that's okay with the mover and seconder.
No, that works for me. Get those two follow-ups,
okay,
because I think at the end of the day, we just, like, everyone's supporting, you know, entrepreneurship and him going forward with this, but I see where they're coming from on the exclusivity and liability. So we can get those two just answered, and we can move forward.
Okay, thank you for that, Nathan. Is that okay with the seconder, Sherry Lynn? Okay, thank you for that. Okay, council, again, good discussion. We'll bring this item back at our next general council meeting. That being said, then, that does complete our agenda for this evening. Therefore, I will look to a motion to adjourn the open session. Moved by Audrey, second by Carrie. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion's carried. Thank you so much, council, and thank you to community. We'll look to our next live meeting, which I believe, which is the next live meeting? Family Day is closed, so our gaming meeting is our next live meeting. So thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. Take care and stay safe.